Well, if I can have everyone's attention, we will continue our driver media availability here this afternoon at Michigan International Speedway. We're now joined by Carl Edwards, driver of the number 99 Ford EcoBoost Ford. 2 wins here at Michigan, Carl. Excited to be back here in the manufacturer's backyard. Talk a little bit about your thoughts for the weekend.
Well, there's a lot of pride for me to be driving the Ford EcoBoost Fusion in Ford's backyard. In Jack Roush's backyard, to be able to come here and drive that car that means a lot to me. It's, I believe, I'm not mistaken, it's 10 years ago this weekend that I got my start in the Sprint Cup Series in the 99 car with Jack. So it's really special for me. It makes me feel really old. But the car was extremely fast in qualifying trim there. So that was a blast. I think that's the fastest lap I've ever made in a race car. So that was fun, and it looks like all of our Fords are pretty good. So hopefully we can turn that into a good qualifying effort. We still need a pole this season, and then we move on to race trim tomorrow. And for us, this would be a great place to get a win.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions for Carl. We'll start in the back with Wolfgang.
Carl, Chris, you mentioned earlier you have 2 wins here. Is there any key point, especially at Michigan Speedway, where it's important to set up the car compared to the other ovals at the calendar?
Yeah, the key for me is to be able to look at Greg Biffle's data. That's the key here. I mean, he's Superman here. So I think Greg's going to be really good, and that helped me a lot in this practice session. But for this racetrack, there's so much time on throttle. I mean, you're just on the gas, super high speeds. The engines are, everybody at Roush Yates Engines has been doing a great job. The engines are great. The car has to be perfect. I mean, not only does it have to handle perfectly, but it has to be the right distance off of the racetrack, and it has to just be perfect. So this is a place where there's a lot of engineering involved, and then as a driver, you just have to be ultra smooth. It's a huge corner. If you make a bobble or a slip, it pays. The stopwatch shows it.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Bob.
Bob Parker, Sporting News. No matter what your view of the tragedy last Saturday night, we know it involved driver emotions, and you've had some times in your past where your emotions probably, but I assume you would say maybe got the best of you.
Well, you can assume that, but I think people are assuming a lot, and I think that to frame this in the light that we understand what happened, I think is wrong, and I'll say that really clearly. I've been racing my whole life, you guys. Been around racing my whole life. I don't know what happened. So, I guess the people that know what happened or know what everybody was thinking must be a lot smarter than me. And so, to me, I think it's, for me personally, I can't obviously tell everybody what they should do, but it's not right for me to discuss what happened because I don't know. The things I do know is that was a tragedy. And my thoughts and prayers are with everybody involved. It seemed like the Ward family. It seems like they're good people. And I can say that if anybody in this room, probably anybody within a 10-mile radius of here needed something, we all know that Tony Stewart would help them with it. Those are the things I know. So that's all I have to say about that.
Feel free to obviously decline to answer, but is there a way for drivers to control their emotions when they're upset?
I'm not going to answer that question because I believe you're framing a question with the assumption that you know what was going on in that situation, and I don't think any of us do right now. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm trying to respect the events and the folks that are grieving over those events.
Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Racing at Michigan, what is it that you find the most difficult about this track, and how much do you feel like, it used to be a Ford track, used to be a Roush track, because it is a track in which the backyard of the manufacturers, still that way for you guys, even if you're rebuilding the program some?
Yeah, we came and tested here. If you just walking through the garage, you see people wearing Roush T-shirts, and there are a lot of people here from Roush Industries, folks that do business with Jack Roush. The Ford folks come over here. Jim Farley and they drive their personal cars over here to the racetrack and come to be a part of this event. So for us, there's no place where there's more pride in winning as a driver for Roush Fenway. So from a performance side, the first race here we were not the way we needed to be. So we've hopefully stepped it up. If there's a Roush Fenway driver standing in victory lane, it will be the biggest win of the year for our team.
What's the biggest challenge
I think the biggest challenge is just the perfection that you have to bring to win here. I mean, at these speeds, with the way the cars are now, your strategy, everything just has to be perfect. And I think that's really hard to do right now. I mean, I know it is because we've been struggling.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Jay. Go ahead.
Jay Pennell with Fox Sports. You guys kind of struggled last race here, and yet you were fast on the board, all three cars. What changed over that time period? And then also, do you have any plans for Tuesday at about 10 o'clock?
So what changed? I mean, I guess you guys should probably go talk to Robbie Reiser. I mean, I don't know if there's a guy that's worked harder this season in this sport than Robbie Reiser. He's given everything. Jack Roush is the same way, and everybody at the shop they've dug deep. Some of the meetings I've been in, the few meetings I've been in, relative to those guys, it's been pretty rough. I mean, everybody's digging deep trying to figure out what we need to do, and so that the change is not one thing; it's the whole group. And yeah, I don't know what releases have gone out or whatever, but so I can't really talk about next Tuesday yet. I'm not really up to speed on what all has been said or what I'm supposed to say.
Okay, we'll get our next question right here. Go ahead.
Brett Norman, NASCAR.com. Carl, considering we know you're leaving Roush and I guess possibly Ford, given the history of that organization and that manufacturer here, does that make this race for you any more, I don't know, special, any more pressure?
This race is always special, and I mean, you guys know how proud I am to represent Ford. I mean, they have, and right now my goal is to go represent Ford and to drive as hard as I can for Jack Roush the same way I always have, and to get us a championship. And yeah, that would be, I guess it would be extra special to be able to do that right now.
Okay, additional questions? Okay, we'll take one from Nate up front. Go ahead.
Nate Ryan, USA Today Sports. Carl, so many teams sort of look at this stretch as a benchmark for the chase with Indy, Pocono, Michigan. This is when everybody rolls out their chase cars, their chassis, their engines. Knowing that Roush put so much effort into it with the test, how important is Sunday, I guess, to sort of show where maybe the team is and maybe make a statement that, hey, we're not as far off as it seems?
And it's not about making a statement or proving anything to anyone. We have to go out and perform. And for us, it's about technically and literally being able to prove that we can do it. We want to be able to not only perform well, but we've got to learn all we can in these next few races so that we're best prepared for the chase. And yes, right now, these races, it's time is as the clock winds down, as you get closer, it becomes more of not a panic, but more of a rush and more serious. And I mean, I know that if we go those first 3 or 6 races and we don't have our act together, I mean, it doesn't really matter what you do after that. You have to wait a whole another year to do it again. So it's an important time for us, and it appears just from this practice session that we are making progress.
Go ahead, Nate.
The rule change this morning, Kyle Larson was saying that he didn't even know if you need a rule change after what happened Saturday. Do you think drivers are being more mindful of just being in their cars under caution?
I will say that regardless of rule changes or anything like that, I think that everything that went on last weekend, I believe that it's a turning point internally for all the drivers. I think I think people will be a little more careful. And as far as NASCAR, if you look at last week's race, I mean, we all watched that wreck out of turn 5 there, and I know that Michael Prentup, everybody at at NASCAR, everybody at Watkins Glen, I mean, they're the number one thing that they try to do is keep the sport safe, and they'll respond and do the best they can. And as drivers, though, we have to remember that we have a huge responsibility. And if you watch some of these wrecks recently, it seems that sometimes it's hard for people to when there's a wreck, we have a responsibility to get out of the throttle and to be cautious and to stop racing right then. And I think that's something that we as drivers can do to help.
Okay, Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah, Tyler Burnett, MRN. Greg said at Pocono that was the fastest car he had coming off the truck at the beginning of the weekend. Is it safe to say that this is one of the fastest cars you've had off the truck? Because obviously you're fast in practice.
Right. I think it's safe to say it's the fastest lap I've ever made in a race car. I'm not sure, but I think it is. So I mean, you can't argue with the timesheet. At the end of the day, if you're up top and you're running well, then that's good. So we're farther up the sheet than we've been in a while, having more fun. The car seems to drive better, and I mean, you never know how the race is going to go, but I hope it goes well. I hope not just because I'd like to run well, but because it'd be nice for these guys at the shop to have something to show for all of this work. I mean, they have been working tirelessly. It's spectacular. So hopefully we can do well for them.
Okay, final questions for Carl? All right, Carl, thank you
All
very
right.
much for your time. Good
Thanks
luck
a lot,
this
guys. I
weekend.
appreciate it. Oh, thanks.
Happy birthday.
Cupcakes left at the
Enjoy the rest of your birthday day.